Good morning, children. Today, let us learn the concept of consumer surplus. Today, I am not just taking the recorder app. Since diagrams and tables are involved in this explanation, I am just going to the direct video recording. See, this concept of consumer surplus was initially, it was introduced by classical economists like Jevons and Jules Depew, otherwise called as J.A. Depew. They were French economists and engineers as well in the year 1844. I want you to just underline this. Initially, the concept of consumer surplus was introduced by whom? Jevons and Jules Depew. Okay, you need to pronounce it as Depew. They were French engineers come economists in the year 1944. Quite an important objective answer. But later on, this concept was very well redefined and elaborated by Alfred Marshall. Actually, this concept is based on the law of DMU, which we saw earlier in the previous classes. Now, let us go understand the concept of consumer surplus. Before going into the concept of consumer surplus, I just wanted to give you a small example. See, for example, if you what shall I say? Okay, fine. See, you have got a very important college function, okay, where you need a particular color of dress, okay, is very, very essential for you for that particular day's activity or any other function. So, you are ready to pay any high price to buy that particular product, to buy that particular shirt. Okay, now, and particularly this paying any high price to buy a product will be more in the case of rich people, which means their potential to buy the product will be very high if they have the ability to pay. Okay, and one more thing, few of your students, you asked me to explain in Tamil, okay, but I do not want to do it, children. Those who have doubt in understanding the concept, I would rather prefer to explain you individually. You call me, I shall just explain you individually in Tamil. But in group, I cannot follow teaching in a Tamil medium. Okay. Just try to understand as day goes on, you will be able to understand the logic in English itself. Okay. Now, coming to the example, if you have the desire to buy and if you have the ability to buy, definitely the potential price that you are ready to pay will be very high. Potential price means the price that you are ready to pay to buy a commodity. On the other hand, there is another person who doesn't have the ability to pay, but he also wants that commodity. Okay, now this particular individual he can afford to pay only the actual price. Let us assume the price of the shirt is 500 rupees. But you very badly want that shirt. You are ready to pay 1000 rupees to buy that shirt. Now here 1000 rupees means, let me take it as 1100 rupees. Okay, you are ready to pay 1100 rupees to buy that particular shirt. Here 1100 rupees refers to the potential price. Potential price is the price that a person is willing to pay. Okay, and what is the actual price of the product? 500 rupees is the actual price of the product. But the original price or the actual price of the product is just 500 rupees. Now the difference of 1100 and 500 is nothing but consumer surplus. Okay, the amount of money that you are ready to pay. Okay, without that you cannot, you have to forego that. If you are not going to pay that 1100 rupees, you have to forego that particular shirt. So you don't want that to happen, so you are paying a higher price. So this higher price of 1100 rupees here refers to potential price. The actual price is 500 rupees. The difference between the potential price and the actual price is referred to as what? Consumer surplus. Okay, with this simple example, I think it should be clear for you. Many a times we might have undergone this consumer surplus. See, a street vendor, he might see the original price of onions might be only 30 rupees. But he might see, if he sees you coming, if he sees a customer coming in a car, he might definitely tell it is 50 rupees. Because a person who comes by a car, it means that he has got the ability to pay more than a person who comes by walk or by cycle. On the other hand, a person who comes by cycle and asks for the price, he might say 30 rupees. Okay, because he is very well able to understand what is the propensity of a person to pay. Okay, so automatically potential price minus the actual price gives us the consumer surplus. Now let us go with the explanation of the definition. Alfred Marshall defines consumer surplus as the excess of price which a person would be willing to pay for a thing rather than go without the thing over that which he actually does pay is the economic measure of surplus satisfaction. This may be called as consumer surplus. I am sure none of you might have understood the definition. Now let us split the definition and understand. What is consumer surplus? The excess of price. Here, what is the excess of price that a person is ready to pay? 600 rupees as per our example. It is 600 rupees is the excess of price which the consumer is ready to pay. So, the excess of price which a person would be willing to pay. Okay, here according to our shirt example, a person is willing to pay 600 rupees more for the shirt. That is, he is ready to pay 1100 rupees for the shirt which actually costs 500 rupees only. So, the excess of price which a person would be willing to pay for what? For a thing. It can be anything. Okay, rather than go without the thing. If he is not paying that excess price, no, of 1100 rupees, he has to go without that thing. He has to go without that shirt. That shirt is absolutely important for him at this juncture. Over that which he actually does pay. He is paying the excess price over that what he actually pays. He is paying 600 rupees more than 500 rupees in excess of than what he actually does pay. What he actually has to pay 500. More than 500 he is paying 600 rupees. Okay, this is the economic measure of the surplus satisfaction. Why he is paying this excess? Why is he paying this surplus of 600? Since it is measured in money terms, you call it as economic measure. This economic measure of surplus satisfaction, he direly wants it. Buying that gives him surplus satisfaction. That is the reason why he is ready to pay a higher price than what actually he does pay. Otherwise, what will happen? He has to go without that thing. Okay, this is called as consumer surplus. Let me just take you once again to the definition. The excess of price, okay, put a slash, which a person would be willing to pay. Okay, put a slash for what? For a thing. Okay, rather than go without the thing. If he is not paying, he has to go without that thing. Here thing, example, what have we taken? Shirt we have taken as an example. Over that which he actually does pay. He has to pay only 500, but he is paying 600 rupees more than that. Okay, otherwise he has to go without that thing. This is the economic measure of the surplus of satisfaction. This which you measure in numerical terms is the surplus satisfaction that he gets by paying the excess amount which he has to buy or else he has to go without that commodity. This you call it as consumer surplus. The concept is very, very simple only. Whenever we go with a concept, definitely there will be certain assumptions. What are the assumptions? Marshall, he has assumed that utility is measurable. He has taken that what is utility? Want satisfying power of a commodity. Okay, how much satisfaction the commodity is giving me. That refers to utility. So here, Marshall, according to Marshall, he has assumed that utility is what? Measurable. Next is marginal utility of money. The consumer remains constant. See, the 1 rupee of him gives him one satisfaction. 100 rupees spent on that gives him the same satisfaction. 1000 rupees spent on that gives him the same satisfaction. So this only means that marginal utility of money remains constant. Next is there are no substitutes for the commodity in question. As such in the market, okay, let us assume that you wanted a red color shirt. Okay, there is no other alternative or substitute for this red color shirt. That is the assumption here. Next is the taste, income, character of the consumer does not change. It is assumed that the consumer prefers only red color shirt here. Okay, his taste never changes. His income also never changes. His character also never changes. Okay, these are the things that remain constant. Next is utility of one commodity does not depend upon the other commodity. Here, he says that, okay, by the utility of a shirt is different from that of the utility which is obtained by consuming a tea. Utility of one product totally varies from the utility of other product, which means the satisfaction of buying a shirt is different from that of the satisfaction that he obtains from some other commodity. Okay, so these are the 5 assumptions which is important. Next, let us go to the explanation. Here too they have given an example for us to understand. See, the concept of some consumer surplus is, suppose a consumer wants to buy an apple. Here, instead of shirt, they have taken as an apple. He is willing to pay rupees 4 rather than go without it. Suppose if he is not paying 4 rupees for the apple, he has to go without the apple only. But what is the actual price of apple? It is just 2 rupees. Here, what is the consumer surplus then? 4 rupees minus 2 rupees, which is 2 rupees is a consumer surplus. Now again, what is consumer surplus? It is given by the formula, what a person is willing to pay minus what he actually pays. Okay, here he is willing to pay how much rupees? 4 rupees he is willing to pay. What is the actual price of the apple? 2 rupees. So 4 minus 2 is consumer surplus. Otherwise, what a person is willing to pay is nothing but potential price. What is the actual, what he actually pays is the actual price. So this is an important, formula to find consumer surplus. Highlight it and keep it. Otherwise, you can mathematically write it in this way. Total utility minus price into quantity. Total utility is nothing but the amount that a person is ready to pay. Okay, again, price into quantity, price of the commodity, quantity into number of commodities that he is buying. Next, we shall go to the explanation of the table, okay, with diagram. I shall just take you here. Okay, see, in the same thing only, whatever is there in the textbook only I have taken here. The first column, I have taken the number of units of commodity that is being bought. The next column tells us what is the potential price of the commodity. Potential price is what? What he is ready to pay. Next column is the actual price of the commodity. Here the commodity taken for example is apple. What is the actual price of apple? It is 2 rupees. Last column tells us consumer surplus. Okay. Now, when I need one commodity, I am ready to pay how much rupees? 6 rupees. Okay, though the actual price is 2, I am ready to pay 6 rupees. So my potential price is very high when I have to buy only one commodity. When I have to buy 2 commodity, what will happen? I cannot pay 6 rupees for the commodity, because if I have to buy 2, I have to pay 12 rupees for that. Now, if my potential price comes to 5 rupees here, when I have to buy 2 units of commodity, and here, but the actual price is same, 2 rupees is the actual price. Now, when you just observe this, as the number of units increases, okay, my potential price is falling down. See, just imagine when I have to buy 5 units of the commodity, okay, of apple, where the price is just 2 rupees. Okay, if I buy 5 apples, actually I have to pay only 10 rupees. If my potential price is 6, how much should I pay? 5 into 6, 30. I will not be ready to pay. So, as the units of commodity increases, okay, what happens to the potential price? It falls down. It is nothing but marginal price. See, initially I told you this law is based upon what? Law of DMU, diminishing marginal utility. So, as more and more units of commodity is bought, what is that? We are not ready to pay high price for the commodity. When I have to buy 5, okay, I am ready to pay only 2 rupees. Just imagine a theater, when you are going to a theater. Okay, if you are a single person going to watch a movie, your potential price will be high. That is, you might be ready to pay. See, what is the cost of one ticket? I think it is 120 rupees is the cost of a ticket. Okay, if you are a single person going to watch a movie, let me assume that you have 500 rupees with you. Okay, so you would be ready to pay even 400 rupees to buy the ticket. Yes, am I right? Depending upon your who is the hero and your interest towards watching the movie. Or sometimes even if it is going to be 500 rupees, okay, I would be ready to go and watch the movie. Here, what is the potential price? 500. What is the actual price? 120 rupees is the cost of the movie ticket. Now, for example, if there are 2 people going, let me assume 3 people. Okay, if you want 3 tickets, what is the actual price? If it is going to be 3 tickets, it is just 360 rupees. But what will you be, if it is, if your potential price is, if you wanted to buy 3 tickets at 500 rupees, how much you have to pay? You have to pay 1500 rupees. Okay, automatically what happens? Your potential price will fall down. Okay, so when number of units required is less, your potential price will be very high. As you want more tickets, will you be able to shell out 1500 rupees to watch the movie if 3 people are going? Just imagine, actually the cost would be how much? Only 360 rupees. But how much are you paying? 1500 rupees. Potential price is this, actual price is this only. As the number of units increases, as the number of tickets increases, okay, what will happen to the potential price? My potential price will automatically come down. So just imagine, when 10 people are going, will you be ready to shell out 500 rupees for one ticket? Definitely we will not do. Just if it is 500 rupees for one ticket, how much, what would be the potential price? 5000 rupees will be the potential price. Okay, on the other hand, what is the actual price? What is the actual price? 1200 rupees is the actual price. So as the number of units increases, okay, the potential price will come down. That is what it means here. Okay, so just look into the table. As the number of units increases, the potential price falls down. Now this is the actual price. Now how am I to find the consumer surplus? Potential price minus actual price, which is nothing but here 6 minus 2, 4. Likewise I do for everything. 5 minus 2, which is 3 here. Okay, 4 minus 2, again 2 here. Okay, I need not give you all these simple subtractions. So just sum total it. When I buy 5 units of commodity, my potential price is 20. Whereas my actual price is how much? Only 10. So what is the consumer surplus? 20 minus 10, which is 10. Okay, here it is nothing but 20 minus 10, which is 10 rupees. Okay, now again the same thing could be explained with the help of a graph. In the x-axis, okay, in the x-axis I take quantity demanded. In the y-axis I take price. Normally we take price in the y-axis and quantity demanded in the x-axis. Now here, when 1 unit is purchased, okay, the price is very high, that is somewhere here. Okay, now as the number of units increases, the potential price decreases. Okay, now it will be a downward sloping curve. Just look into the relationship between these two. When one is increasing, the other is decreasing. Whenever such a relationship is there between two variables, automatically the curve will be a downward sloping curve. Here this is the demand curve, which is a downward sloping curve. Now when you see here, what is the price of the product here? Apple here, 2 rupees is the price of the apple. And how much units are being demanded? 5 units are being demanded. So this portion, that is OPCQ, will be the actual money that is spent on apples, on buying 5 units of apples. But the customer pays for getting 5 units of apples. The customer pays a total price of how much? OPCQ. This whole portion is the total amount of money that is being spent. That is potential price that is being spent. Now to find consumer surplus, what is the formula? Potential price minus actual price. I think this is P. Okay, this is D. ODCQ. ODCQ is the potential price. What is the actual price? OPCQ is the actual price, because the price is 2 rupees and number of units bought is 5 units. But here why price I have not mentioned is, when 2 rupees is when the price is 2 rupees, this much is a commodity bought, and the price increases from 2 to 3, 4 and 5 here. Okay, now potential price is this whole area, O, D, C and Q. Now to find a consumer surplus, potential price, that is ODCQ minus actual price OPCQ. What is that area? This is DPC, that is a shaded portion. This shaded portion refers to the potential price of the consumer surplus for the commodity. Okay, now the same thing is explained in the graph here. Okay, whatever I have told you is just explain the shaded portion, that is PDC. PDC is the shaded portion which refers to the consumer surplus. Okay. Now, definitely whenever there is a law or a concept being given, there will be criticism against that law. Actually, what are the criticism? Basically, we cannot measure utility. It is something which is felt only. So, it is subjective in nature. Okay. Suppose if it can be measured, you call it as objective in nature. Marginal utility of money does not remain constant. See here, for him, if I have to say that marginal utility of money is constant, he should be ready to pay 5,000 where he has to pay 1,200. But normally we are not like that. So our marginal utility of money keeps on falling. When we have less money, we will be very conscious in spending the money. When we have more money, okay, we will be very leniently spending the money. So marginal utility of money never remains constant at all time. Next is potential price is internal. It might be known to the consumer himself. See, whatever is my potential price, I will know because my potential price might be different from that of yours. You might have a different potential price. See, in the cinema ticket itself. Okay, see, I told you, 120 rupees is the ticket price and 500 rupees is the potential price for me. For some other person, the potential price might be only 200 rupees. Okay, for some other person, the potential price and actual price might be same only. Some other person might think, see, more than 120 rupees, I will not pay even 1 rupee for the movie. So, it depends on individual to individual. So, these are the criticism against the concept of consumer surplus. Okay, children, with this we are finishing the concept of consumer surplus. Now, let us move to the next topic of law of demand. Okay, before going to the law of demand, we need to understand what is demand. Okay, demand in economics, it is nothing but, okay, the desire to possess a commodity, okay, and the willingness to buy and the ability to pay for that should be there. I'll give you a small example. Okay, there are two people. One is a rich man and the other is a poor man. Both of them wanted to buy a high-end model car. Okay, take any, see, recently they have floated a new model in Kia, is it? Okay, both of them have the desire to buy the new launch in Kia. The Kia Motors have come out with a new brand, is it? Okay, fine. I don't know the brand, whatever might be the brand. Okay, both the rich person as well as the poor person, both of them, they wanted to buy the car. Now here in both the case, both of them have got the desire to buy the commodity. Okay, but who can create demand for the product? Is it the rich man or the poor man? It is only the rich man who can give a demand for the product, because the rich man has desire, he is willing to buy, as well as he has got the ability to pay also. He has got the ability to pay a certain price to buy that commodity. Whereas in the case of the poor man has got the desire. Okay, he also wishes to buy. He has got the willingness to buy also. But does he have the ability to pay for the product? Definitely no. Okay, does he have the ability to pay the price of the product? So it is not possible for him to pay because of the reason that he is poor. Okay, now here demand means, in economics, it is a desire to possess something. You should have the desire. What is desire? Willingness or wishes. Okay, in Tamil, want, need, asaigal. Okay, so it is the desire to possess something. You should have the desire to possess, as well as you should be willing to buy. Okay, willingness, again, it is synonymous to desire. Okay, you should have the willingness to buy. In addition to that, you have the ability to pay the certain price. Okay, you should have the ability to pay a certain price in order to possess it. To buy that commodity or to possess for yourself, you need to have the ability to pay a certain price for that commodity. This is the definition given by Harvey. There is one more definition given by Steiner and Haig. Demand in economics means desire backed up by enough money to pay for the goods demanded. Very simple definition. Okay, you should have desire. What is demand? It means desire. The desire should be backed up by what? Backed up means what? It should be supported by. Okay, it should be backed up by what? Enough money. Ability to pay is otherwise called as enough money. For what? To pay for the good demanded. See, if you are going to demand the commodity, you should have the desire to buy and the ability to buy also. Now again, there should be some characters. There are certain characters for demand. See, for example, in the case of the poor man, If the car value is 12 lakh rupees, the rich man can afford for the car. So he'll be having ability to pay for the car. Suppose if the car is just 2 lakh rupee,